Hi everyone, welcome back to Adobe Live. I'm your host Anika and I will be here with you for the next 1 hour. We'll be creating some fun poster designs and let me know how you are doing today. It's a fine Wednesday here. I'm feeling fine. I'm already in the holiday mood over here. Let me know where you're tuning in from. How are you feeling? What's the feeling like? And what is your favorite code? I will be using Adobe Illustrator today to make some poster designs using my favorite codes, your favorite codes. So if you're watching this live on YouTube or on Behance, say hello. Let me know your favorite code and your favorite font. If it's Comic Papyrus, I don't want to know. Okay, I don't want to know. Let's dive into it. The plan for today. Well, we'll be creating some poster designs. Like I said, there'll be blend modes. There'll be text to vector. We will be adding and generating textures. I know Jack Watson did an amazing stream yesterday about adding textures, giving prompts to generative text to vector, which I'm going to experiment with today. We're going to be using generative recolor and blend and replace spine. A lot of the fun stuff. You probably might have seen that today in the Adobe Live programming with the pro tips, the masterclass, and the typography. Trust me, we did not plan this. But let's dive into the mood board for today. And this is my inspiration. I feel like I've always been inspired with like type based designs, and I like these bold shapes. I like this reso sort of look with these. And while these are like digital, this is like a way for you to make something that's digital but has that print quality to it. So, which is why I'll be adding some textures as well. I went ahead to Adobe Stock to actually make a library. I think it should be right here. Yeah, I always forget what the library icon is. But I got some of these Adobe Stock assets and put them in this library so I can show you guys what I'm going to work with today. So these are some of these assets that are textures. I have these. And I'm going to wait for chat to let me know a code because I'm going to start with that. So I'm going to give you some time to like tell me. It can be a design code, it can be a life code, it can honestly be anything. Life is short. Maybe we can do that. So these are some of the textures that I'll be working with. I really like this rough pasted look of this poster sort of quality. So I'm gonna work around with that. I'm gonna use some blend modes. And speaking of, there's a common theme in this inspiration board, which is essentially blend modes. And you can see that there are like all these colors are interacting with each other. And I think I really like that look with these posters. So I'm going to be implementing some of that in my design process today, which tells me you may not be replying to me with quotes, right? So I came prepared. Okay. I have some content. But I do want to say hi to chat, which I did not earlier. So I want to say hi to CJ, Wade, Alejandro, Kristen, Jack, Rob, Lexine, Carol, Kristen. Hi, what's up? How's it going, guys? Let me know where you're tuning in from. And what are your favorite quotes? I think my chat on YouTube is not refreshing, so I'm gonna take a look at that real quick. All right, I think we're good. So these are some of the fonts right over here that I've um, chosen. And these are not the first two over here that you see are not Adobe fonts. These are by Brandon Nickerson, which actually Jack put me onto. Brandon Nickerson is a graphic designer, I think based off New York. And he does a lot of font work. And I think I really love like all of his font designs. I think I want to implement these two in my designs. And then I also got some of these classic fonts, which are like sans serifs and some funky ones here. And all of these are Adobe fonts. So you can find them at fonts.adobe.com. And then there are some colors in here as well, which may not be the best looking colors. Like you won't go for them right away, but you would think about it. And then here are some prompts from Jack Watson from yesterday. I took a screenshot of it just to show you how this could work in my process. And it was fascinating to see how this was working in their process, and my process is probably not going to be the same. And then we talk about blend modes, which is super cool. There was a stream by Tim Mobist, and he explained blend modes in Photoshop, which actually I referenced when I was making this textual like context for you guys. And I have a really cool trick for you in Illustrator. If you've never seen the blend mode section, if you have any shape selected, you can go to opacity over here in your appearance in the properties panel. And then over here, you have all of these blend modes. The only difference between Photoshop and Illustrator is how many blend modes there are available, one. And two, if you hover over blend mode, it doesn't really change it. You have to click on it for to make it appear and to make it seem like what it should be if you had that blend mode selected. It doesn't work with hover as opposed to how it does in Photoshop. Um, I do want to look at chat. I know the chat is popping. It ain't over till it's over. If you want to get something out of life, then fight for it. Okay. If you weren't ready, you wouldn't have the opportunity. Great minds think alike. I like the great minds think alike. Also, Rob, hi, nice to see you. Okay, I love all the design, all the life quotes, and I think I'm happy with them. So thank you so much for sending me those references. Here's an example of what I wanted to show you and start with when you talk about blend modes, just because like I want to start with a pro tip. And these are, I think this is on difference. I'm gonna go ahead and make it to normal. All of these, actually, I'm gonna make a copy of this so you guys can see it from a fresh base. So we have these colors, right? This is all of these are on a normal blend mode. By normal, I mean you can see these colors as they are. This is the default mode if you create any shape in any Adobe Creative Suite application, right? So this is normal, this is normal, this is normal as well. You can go ahead, change color of this fill to anything that you like. I think I want to make it blue or something. And then I want to make this the same as well. And the thing that I want to show you relates to the appearance panel. Actually, the transparency. So I should bring up the transparency panel right here. And I have these three shapes in here, which are like ellipses, right? I want to click on this first one and I want to say, maybe I want like a difference, which is essentially going to be, okay, let's come back here. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. So if I'm muting myself at any point, that's what it is. Okay. So the difference blend mode is actually inverting how your top shape works with the shape at the bottom, right? So this was the color that we had. And since I selected difference over here, this is interacting with the colors underneath it. And that's how it works. If you want to learn more about blend modes, this is not a blend mode pro tip session, but there is a link that you can find. If you look up blend modes in Illustrator, you will be provided with this help X link on Google, easily findable, searchable. You can scroll down and you can read all about all the different kinds of blend modes. I have, if we go back to my Illustrator again, I have put up like a small categorized method here that can help you understand how they react with the shapes underneath them. But the first thing to remember about blending any two layers or shapes is that you need a base layer and you need a blend layer, right? So the blend layer is the thing that is on top, which is this in this case, and this is on difference. That's the blend mode. And right over here, I'm using a difference blend mode in this case as well. What I want to do is use my eyedropper to copy paste that appearance into this top shape here. But as you can see, if I change the color of the background, I think to anything, right? This shape is interacting with that background as well. What if you wanted to isolate that blend mode and create something that did not interact with the background shape? The simple way of doing that is have all of the shapes selected, that is the base layer and the blend layer. Press Command G if you're working on a Mac, Control G if you're working on a Windows device, and then click on Isolate Blending. Isolate blending modes, isolate the group that you have the blend modes applied to, and don't blend it with the background layer, right? So if you cannot see this option, it's under transparency. If you don't see transparency, it's under window and you open up the transparency panel right here. And then if you don't see these options right here at the bottom, you can click on show options from the hamburger menu. You do that and click on isolate blending, and voila, this is how it looks. And it's now only interacting with the base layers, which are two shapes instead of our background layer as well. Okay. I think this is great. This is a great place to start our design process. If you have any questions about this, let me know if you've ever isolated a blend group in Illustrator. I don't even know if any of you actually knew about that, but let me know if you did. And if you've ever used blend modes in any scenario. Let's jump back into some of the quotes that we got. I think I want to write some of those here. We have, I know Jack said vectors are free to me yesterday, so I think I want to write that. I want to say some of the ones that Rob has mentioned in the chat. So I'm writing that. I'm looking at chat and thinking, what we want. If you weren't ready, I love that everybody has given us all these live quotes, which I thought would be the opposite. You know, I thought it would be like design quotes or something, because I was like, oh, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. This is actually one of my favorite quotes. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Wow, I just made a typo there. I think these two are my favorite quotes, but I do want to start with some of the ones that we got. I think Jack sent me the first one, and there are a couple ones from the chat as well. I will go back to some of these as we go through, but I'm going to start with this Aaron Braplin quote, vectors are free. So let's go with this Nouveau Grotesque Black. I'm going to change the text color to black over here so we can see on this. And just a quick overview about what I have on my Illustrator file. I zoomed out. We have these 18 by 24-inch poster sizes and 3 variations that I'm going to create. So I've given myself plenty of space to experiment. This is experimentation. This is not a final product. This is a first pass at things. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Let me fix that really quickly for you all. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna start with vectors or free. Okay, let's start with that. And I'm also not gonna start with any color. I feel like once I pick colors, I get really like confused with where I want to take the design direction to. So I really start with like no color at all, black and white, helps you really focus and dial down the madness, and you can only focus on the important stuff, which is like the layout. So I want to think about this. Some people really work with grids when it comes to type posters, but I just like go with it. I just do whatever I feel like in this moment, and then maybe go back and fix how it like looks like and align things, and then make them like equally distributed. Have a grid structure in my brain that I use while I'm creating something like this. So let's go back. What is this? What is causing that error? I think it's all these textures. Okay, so I'm gonna color pick actually some of the colors from here. So maybe I want this color. I'm gonna select all of these text options and maybe select this little pink in here. And I think a really classic combination is the blue and pink. And I'm going to give it that background as well. So maybe I want this color. Maybe I want a darker one. Actually, let me go back to the fill and change it to a darker one. Yeah, the legibility on that is much higher than it was earlier. I do want to change the fill color on this. So maybe I can go ahead and change the saturation. So I'm going to go ahead to my HSB slider and change the saturation a little bit. I think I like that. And all of this, remember, is going to be digital. So anything that we do here doesn't apply to CMYK posters. Okay. And perhaps we want to do something like vectors are free. So maybe actually make them bigger because vectors are free, right? So I want to do that and maybe like have them off screen a little bit. I think this could be fun, like having these shapes off screen and then maybe making a copy as if it was like coming back into the picture, something like that. I guess even if it's not like a perfect like match, it's fine because this is not a pattern. And I think I want to do like R and then align this. Let's do that. And then I want to bring this copy right here as well. And while I do this, I want to make this aligned. So I'm going to make distribute spacing and make them equally spaced. That way it's just like helps me focus on like how I want to place them in the layout. And then maybe I want to actually do this here. And vectors are free. Oh, I didn't actually align that. Okay. So I think this is cool, but at the same time, I want to experiment with like how this is looking on the shape, right? So what I'm going to do is essentially like go to trim view so you can actually just see what's on the artboard. Obviously you see this over here, so I'm going to replace it with like a white shape so that you don't see it and it looks like it's not there. And now it gives me like a visual of how it's going to look if the other shapes did not exist. So this essentially is like a trick for your brain to essentially connect the dots. And even if it's not the same, your brain like automatically connects those dots and think vectors are free. And right now I think there's an issue with like the R because the E is like at a tangent and I don't really want that. I think this works better than what it was earlier. And I think, I think I'm happy with that as like a start. So I'm going to go back, exit our trim view. And now we have this, right? But this is not interesting. I don't think this has like anything unique about it. So how can you fix that? Enter blend modes. I actually want to use my pen tool to create some shapes out of this. And maybe I actually want to make a copy of this. I'm going to command and paste in place. And now I'm going to go to type and create some outlines. So this top layer over here is like outlines, underneath is text, editable text, right? So I'm going to convert it to color it to the shape, like the background shape, which is blue. And now I think I want to mess about with the shapes itself. So I want to first change the blend mode of this to like multiply, and multiply will essentially like multiply the color underneath that is on your base layer, and it'll multiply. So if you multiply black with black, it's going to produce a darker color. And if you put the same color on top, like this color is blue, the base color is also blue. If you change the layer color to multiply, it's going to darken it, right? Wait, did it do it? Here we go, right? And I think this in itself also looks cool, but it like takes away from the meaning. So what I'm gonna do is bring it down here and use the direct selection tool to make some changes. Maybe we can work with some of these shapes. I think I want to essentially like use a rectangular shape because we won't be able to see the blue on blue. So I'm going to say multiply. Sorry about that. Man, this coughing is bad. I don't like the change of weather, to be honest. Let's just be real over here. For a second, I do not like seasonal allergies at all. Okay, I'm going to align this over here. And I think this is like adding some depth to this. Although this E looks a little bit terrible. That's why like zooming out is important. I feel like that really helps bring you back into the design process. And I'm going to bring it here. And then bring it down. And maybe I want to zoom out again just to see how that looks. Wow. Okay. And let me know in the chat if you have any suggestions for me when we're creating this as well. Okay, and then I want to make something like this maybe. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my trim view. I think in my process, I go back and forth the trim view a lot just because I just want to see how that's looking, right? So I don't think this R is working just because it's not aligning and it's creating a tangent over here that you see. I want it to be perfectly aligned with the glyph over here. So I'm going to make it like so. And I think that looks cool. I think I could experiment more with it. So let's do that. Let's do that while we're here. And then maybe I want something here. Maybe this can be one shape, but that would be boring. So maybe we can just do this shape. Like, so real talk, always be real, like for real. Exactly. Wade gets it. I want to bring this up top here, and I actually want to make something here as well. So let me bring this up. Okay. Yeah, and then I zoom out again just to make sure how it looks. Now, I'm not a fan of like the pinks here, so maybe I want to change that color actually. Let's see. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. I actually want to change the saturation of that. Let's see how it looks if I like really saturate it a lot and really desaturate it a lot. I think this is like your experimentation phase where you can actually see how your design is looking. I think I like this color better than what we had earlier, but you can go ahead, make your own pick with the colors that you're choosing. But this is what we have for now. And then you can also use something like vectors or freeze. So maybe we can add like a pen icon or something, like a pen tool icon. We'll think about that in just a second here. I want to make sure we're on track with time. We're 20 minutes in. So if you're just joining us, let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you ever use blend modes to create any poster designs. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do we have something? All right. So this is like a very manual process where you're really deciding and experimenting. So I'm not going to go through all of these steps in this live stream, but this is like one example of how you can create something that is similar to perhaps this design, where you're creating it for a brand, you're creating it for an event branding, and you're creating it for a music festival. It could be like a conference, anything. You're creating it for fun, and you can use basic shapes and all of these methods to actually like create something that's interesting to look at. I do think that this needs a lot of work in terms of like where the shapes are placed. Like for instance, this one is terrible. I immediately hate it when I look at it again. But this is a good start. I think we can use recolor, generative recolor to actually make it look interesting. So let me go back in here, turn on trim view, turn off trim view, and then I'm going to copy paste this to another layer. And I actually want to use generative recolor. So let's actually go ahead, select all of these, and here's my contextual taskbar right here. And I'm gonna click on recolor and see what comes up. I haven't really experimented with this with like blend mode, so we'll be in this together, friends. Let's actually use trippy disco and see what comes up with it. I'm really excited to see what comes up. Blend modes with like recolor artwork, I think it should still work, but we'll see. Okay, I think it did work, but because the colors, I think I selected the number of colors. Yeah, because I think it worked on the background, but not on the layer with blend mode. So, oh, I guess it did. It's just blending on top of the. Okay, I see what happened. All right. So, this is our initial thing that we started from, right? So, I clicked on recolor and changed to generative recolor, went to trippy disco, and it changed to purple, which was like the background color. Now, purple was less saturated than the blue that we had here. And this top blue layer, which was on multiply, reacted differently to like the base layer in terms of saturation. And I think this was more saturated. That's why it looks a little bit different. You would have to cut those shapes. And I think any of these could work depending on what's your go-to. If it's like an event branding or if it's just a poster, you could change how this looks. Now I do want to experiment a little bit more. I think these colors are really subtle. I do like these as well. Maybe we can go in here to recolor and change how bright they are. Maybe this is how they are. And then you can change the saturation in here as well. So the one on the left is for changing the brightness and and that bright. This is for brightness and hue, and this is for saturation. So I can adjust saturation. If you move right on the slider, it increases and decreases if you go to the left. Okay. I am not a fan of this, but we're gonna go with it. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Well, I don't know. Okay. I think I would have to convert all of this to like outlines if I want this to work the same way that I want, like had the original effect. So I'm going to leave that be for right now. I'm going to put it on the side and only work with the first option we had. And I think I want to move with like adding some texture, right? So I'm going to go back to my library here and maybe add like one of these textures. And I want to add this guy in here. So maybe I want to add this on top, and I immediately don't see anything. And you're like, oh, how are we adding texture? It's not doing anything. Well, a simple way to do that is essentially adding like the blend mode, and you can go in if you want to darken the color underneath. You can use any of these from the first section. It can be the darken, it can be multiply, which is going to react with the colors underneath. Color burn, which is going to, like the name says, burn underneath. It's going to darken the base color to reflect that in terms of like the blending. If it's on white, it won't produce anything. It'll just show the same color. Like in here, it's not doing anything, right? Perfect. Oh, actually, that's underneath. That's on top. Yeah, there you go. And I think this kind of works. This kind of works. I think I want to create like a clipping mask. So what I'm gonna do is not do that. I'm gonna paste this on top. I'm gonna bring this back in, select these two, and create a clipping mask. And that is a clipping mask for us. Go back to trim view. Trim view. Yeah. And then this is like the first option. I don't think I'm a fan, to be honest. Let's move on to a second one. While we're working on this, let me know if you've ever used blend modes like this. Okay, I think I want to make something with like what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Okay, and then I'm gonna start with like a background color. Let's see. I think I want to go back to and default to my purple color just because it just makes me feel at home. It makes me feel at home. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. I think I want to use this guy here. And I want to go back to my inspiration real quick, just because I feel like some of these colors are kind of like throwing me right now. I want to see how some of these colors interact with each other. So these are probably on a multiply or a darken layer. I think we already experimented with something like this over here. And now we're working with like something like this, where I actually want to use like a base layer that we have. So I want to make sure that we have that here. Do we have that? I don't think we do. Let me go back to my assets real quick. Is this it? Am I going to be able to see it? I don't know. Man. I'm trying to find an asset in my library, but I'm unable to find it. Okay, let's start with this. Okay, and I actually want to use this as like my text in here. Maybe I want to actually put this on the side and use the same font, right? And I'm gonna say, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So I'm gonna say only makes you. And this time we're actually gonna use like text to vector. I don't know if you've ever used text to vector. I think it's in beta still, but it's still like getting better every single time I use it. And I think that's really interesting. Like with the prompts that you can give to text to vector, it is interesting to see all the results that come up. I think I've been successful with like black and white landscape, which we're gonna experiment with today. I think I want to see how that comes up because yesterday when I was doing with patterns, it didn't really come up really well. It was still giving me color, which was weird, but it's still in beta, so we'll see. And then I'm gonna put this here. Okay, okay, I don't hate it. And then I think I'm gonna put the name in here. So right now I'm just like laying out how I want this to look in the end, and it's not set in stone. I think I like how this like guides your eye and makes you think that you're like flowing. It's like a waterfall sort of a design. I think I want to make sure this is embedded so it stops giving me that warning. It does make your file heavier if you do embed something in your Illustrator file. So make sure you're not doing that for everything. I'm just doing that because we are live. Great, my friends, we are live. Okay. So I actually just realized that I forgot to smile all this time. I was just like so focused doing all the things that I've like haven't been doing that. Okay, get back in the zone, Anika. All right. So I want to add this that what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So I want to add that here. Like so. Okay, and then maybe we want to decrease the font size. And if you notice, I'm not using any more than two fonts on one design. I feel like that's something that I should mention that when you're creating any sort of designs, that's going to be on a poster for a brand, anything, make sure you're not using more than two and maximum three fonts in any design, just because it doesn't really work out in the long run. It's not great for the designs that you're creating just because it doesn't create consistency. If you have one big font family with like multiple font weights, it helps create that consistency in your design, which I think is really helpful when you talk about timeless branding. Okay, I do want to change it to like capitalize. So I want to change all of these to like capitalized. I went into my properties and changed it to capitalized. Let me size that down just a little bit. And if I'm talking about like fonts, like number of fonts that you're using in a design, I also want to talk about font sizes. So make sure you're only using like consistent font sizes. A perfect example for that would actually be like Apple using like consistent font sizes in their apps and like the iOS UI. I think that UI UX is like a perfect example of like how many font sizes and font weights you should use when it comes to designing something. Not just app design, it applies to all kinds of design. Okay, I think I like where this is going, but this area sort of feels empty. So maybe I want to add like something here. Maybe I want to add something here. Maybe I want to add like today's date in here. So I'm going to say 15th right over here. And if you're just joining us, I basically talked about like blend modes, how you can use them, how you can use a transparency panel to essentially create isolated blend modes. Then we started creating a poster and emulating like one of the effects that we saw on our inspiration board. And now we're creating the second one. I think I really like the direction of this just because it's like mimicking that waterfall look. I do want to make this like equally distributed. So I'm just using distribute spacing. If you're not happy with how far they are with each other, like the objects or the type, you can decrease the spacing over here like so. and then you can select this. Now, this is not particularly what we wanted, so it's sort of like a hit and trial. Obviously, I wasn't looking at it, so that's not what we want. Okay, that's not what we want. I'm gonna undo all of this. I'm gonna say 0. Illustrator is not in love with me today. Let's go back here and click on distribute spacing. All right, this is not what I wanted. Illustrator. Okay, let's bring that here. Oh, that's because I didn't select the key object. All right. We're going to leave this for now. I think it is taking up a lot of space. We need that negative space here. So maybe we'll bring that down. We'll think about whether or not we want to add that. And then over here, maybe we want to add like a shape, like so. And it's like black in color or white in color. And then that's going to be our text to vector. So let's use that real quick. Okay. Let's use text to vector. Okay, and now I want to actually make a copy of it before we move on to text to vector, just because I do not want that original to get like erased. Vectors are free, right? Remember, vectors are free. So I do want to keep this, and I want to go back to my text to vector graphic beta. Now, if you've ever seen this, it's available in the properties panel, right? And I have multiple type of vector things that I can create, right? You can either create a subject, scene, icon, or a pattern. In this case, I do want to create a scene. I want to create like a live scene, maybe mountains or something. I'm imagining like a black and white landscape with mountains and clouds. I don't know what's going to come up. I'm leaving everything default. So we'll see together what comes up. It's generating. And meanwhile, I'm going to take a look at chat. I haven't looked at chat in a while. So I'm going to take a look at that and see. Okay. While I was taking a look at chat, this is what was generated. And I feel like I really love this. Honestly, this is the best kind of result that I've seen out of this prompt that I've given, but that could also be because I've been training the AI to make something like this. But this is where you can like color pick, style pick. You can use a sample prompt, or you can change the settings here with the amount of detail. You can change the detail to less and more. Maybe if we do less, something's going to change. And then I'm going to click on generate beta and see what comes up. So it also gives you like a handy little tip here that create a rectangle on your canvas first to define the size of your generated graphics. I feel like that's really helpful for someone who's never used it, to have all of these references for you. I think it's really emphasizing the clouds here, and I don't really want that. Maybe I want something like less detailed. So maybe I want to say black and white landscape with mountains and clouds and transparent background. Will it work? I don't know. I've never tried this, chat. I've never tried this. We'll see. Yeah, AI generating doesn't always work how you expect it to be, because that's like you're still training it to like behave in a certain manner, but it's still under beta, so like it doesn't really give you the expected results. Now, this has actually given me some of the expected results because I put it as less detailed. It is really taking away from the amount of detail I'm seeing. So maybe I want to increase that to 3 and then see what comes up. Okay, amazing graphics in 3 steps. All right. Generating. Okay. Okay, not bad. I don't hate it. I also don't hate this, but it's not essentially giving me what I wanted. Maybe I'll go with this one, and then I'll like perhaps make some edits. So, or maybe I can select this and like maybe do this. I'll zoom out and see how that looks. Okay. So another reason that I copied this was because I wanted this to be contained in this capsule kind of shape that I created. And with text to vector beta, I've realized that the shape doesn't really retain. It like doesn't take your custom shape. It takes like a rectangular shape. So it automatically converted that to like a rectangular, like the smallest rectangle it could, like the largest rectangle it could fit in that capsule. And that's what it generated. So that was another reason that I decided to like keep that. I think I want to keep this for now, just for the sake of time, and I want to paste this on top. Do want to make this like, oh no. What? That is so interesting. That was an interesting. Okay, I am just gonna extend this background like a little bit because I wanted to fit into this. And maybe I can decrease the shape, scale it down. And now what I want to do is like select both of these shapes and press Command 7, which is going to create this clipping mask. And I feel like that kind of works. And then maybe I want to change like the blend mode of the vector generated itself. And the multiply works really well in this case. I think that really does wonders for me. Maybe I can test with difference doesn't really make sense because it's like excluding the colors in this case and like creating um it's the opposite of basically what overlay would do, right? Oh no, did I say that wrong? No, I said that right. Okay. I think overlay or like multiply would work in this case. So I think I want to create another copy of this and see how both of these look next to each other. So I have this right over here and I want to change it to like multiply and see how that looks. Okay, let me know what you guys think. Do we like the overlay or do we like the multiply? This is overlay is on the left and multiply is on the right. Let me know what you think while I figure out how I can add like some more detail to this. I think I want to add like maybe like what number poster this is because this is like kind of like a series that I'm working with. So I'm gonna use this Adobe clean font. Um, go back in here while you guys see which one you like. Do you like the one on the left or one on the right? Let me know. Typographic posters. And then we're actually gonna jump into like Express. I think I want to make this move and I'm gonna see how like I can push Adobe Express's limits to make like a typographic poster out of this. I don't know. We'll see. I've never like made a poster move in Express, so we'll see how that works. Left for you. Yeah, I think it adds that color, so that's cool. Good to know. Maybe I can add something like this. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. I think I like the layout of the right, but the colors of the left. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change how overlay on the side and have like multiply on the left now. Over here, I think I think I agree, Wade. Now the right. Now the right one. You do like the number? Okay, cool. Yeah. I think the number kind of like balances out because we have the date at the bottom here, and number kind of like balances out and guides your eye. I think this looks much better in terms of like where I want to take this. I do want to add like something to this. So let me go back and open like an Illustrator Adobe stock file here. It's not opening. That's weird. I did have like a background that I wanted to use. That is so weird that it's not opening. My Illustrator is like glitching right now. It's saying that it's in Adobe stock, but it's not actually opening the file. That was so weird, chat. Okay, I do want to add like texture on top before I move this to Adobe Express. I do want to create like a blend as well. Let's go back to a plan. We really kind of strayed away from it. Okay, we are creating poster designs. We're doing blend modes. We're doing text to vector. We're adding and generate. We did not generate a texture. So why don't we do two things now? Let's generate a texture and let's add like a PNG and change the blend mode of that as well. So these are the two things we're gonna do. We did generative recolor, but we're gonna jump into motion posters. Okay, so I'm gonna make another copy of this. And for one, I'm gonna generate like a texture on top. So I'm gonna make like a rectangle here. And we're gonna reference Jack's prompt list. So I'm gonna copy that and bring it to my side. Sorry, this is a lot of moving. Okay, awesome. I have that here. There's still like stuff underneath, but I have that selected. I do want to jump into these and see which one will kind of work for me. Wrinkled paper, close up wrinkled paper. I think I want to test with like wrinkled paper. Jack, I don't know if you're still in chat, but did you create like a pattern with that or was it like subject? or an icon? I think I want to do like scene and see what wrinkled paper brings up. That would be interesting. Okay, we're cross your fingers, okay? We'll see how this works. I don't know how this is gonna work. We just wrote wrinkled paper, gave it a scene, and we're seeing what comes up. I've never done this before, so it's gonna be interesting to see what comes up with this. Okay, that is fascinating. That is not the result that I was expecting. But okay, this one isn't that bad. Okay, those were for pattern, but they probably work with others too. Okay, let me actually try with the pattern and then we can make it bigger in terms of like the shape that we're using to superimpose on top. I think anything should work. I think this is something that's like you can generate with scene because like I think it should work either way as well. Okay, I think I like this. And then I can change like the opacity, like the blend mode of this to something like this. And that kind ooh, that's actually cool. Okay, so if you select scene, right? If you select scene and then make something, it's actually giving you that wrinkle paper effect with like where it hits the light. So I think this one really works well for our case. I think I can experiment with this one as well. If I expand this shape, I think this will really work for my design. So I go to opacity and change it to like multiply. Man, this is so cool. Okay, this is like live experimentation where we're doing something like this. I feel like this is super cool where we're like generating paper textures, which are vectors and not really PNGs. So if that's the vibe you're going for and you want everything to be like scalable and not like fuzzy at all, you can actually use and create like paper textures with this. And I just like used wrinkled paper and subject as my thing. The first three weren't really the best. I think the first set of images kind of gave me one design that I was okay with. And the next three variations actually gave me something usable, which was really cool. So if you're going something like a tiger effect, which is like, oh, this is cool, which is like a darker tone, I think this really works for you. If not, if you're going for something like this, you can change the blend mode again to like multiply. And then this one has like highlights on it. I think this is really cool. I really love how this is like making my design look. I do want to go to like one of the defaults that I had, which was like an Adobe stock asset and show you how the difference looks, right? So this is an Adobe stock paper asset, which is like pasted paper or something. And I just got it off of there. It's a free license, free asset that you can license, right? On the left that you see, I think I will decrease the opacity a little bit too. Yeah, I think it's there. It's still subtle, but it's there. I think I want to test it out with like overlay and see how that looks. Okay, I don't hate it. Okay, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. So I'm gonna change it back to multiply. Maybe like change it to like 80%. Yeah. And then over here, you really can't see anything from underneath. So let's experiment with like multiply and see what comes up. Now, this is not legible. This is not making my like stuff legible at all. So maybe the first thing that I want to do is change the orientation. So I want to like maybe move it around just a little bit. So I want to make it like bigger and then move it around maybe like so. Maybe make it much bigger. Okay, and then I think what I want to do is like change it. I'm gonna go back to my blend modes really quickly and see how that works. Let's go back. So whenever you're in doubt, I think coming back to these categories is really helpful because it kind of like helps you realize how blend modes work, right? It's always not just a guessing game. So I do want to like work on like the contrast here. So I'll experiment with these three blend modes, which is overlay, soft light, and hard light. I want to see how this texture will work on these blend modes. Right now it's on multiply. I want to see how overlay or soft light would work. Let's say soft light and see how it comes out. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. So when you're working with like soft light, it essentially if the base layer is lighter than 50% gray, that's when like it is lightened, right? So that's what happened in this case. I do want to change it like a little bit, like positioning of this, just to like see how that works with like our artwork. It doesn't doesn't like takes away from the design as much, but I would want the date to also be legible. So maybe we can like change and experiment how this like design or texture is placed. Maybe we can like change the orientation or something and see how that looks like. Yeah, and then now the overlay texture of like like the graphic we generated didn't really work really well. Doesn't work really well with that. So perhaps we can like experiment with that as well. Let's see. I'm trying to see where, like, if I position it right, how would it work? Hmm. Hmm. Okay. And okay, I think I don't hate this. I don't hate this. And I actually want to create like go back here and create a clipping mask here. And I want to change the blend mode that's underneath and see what happens. I want to change it to multiply and see what happens. Okay, I think that kind of changes the legibility a little bit. Makes it look interesting. I do want to undo that to like what we had and maybe like paste a copy of that. Ooh, that's a fun color. Okay. I pasted that pasted this like text to vector shape on top of it, and now it kind of matches the soft light that we created. And I think I love both of these. I actually love the look of both of these designs that we created, but I want to jump into like Express now. I want to copy paste these designs and like bring it to move, and we'll see how that works. I've never really like made made these designs move like this, so we'll see. Okay, we'll see. I'm gonna choose like flyer. I think this should work. I'm gonna change it to like 18 inches by 24. See what comes up. We only have about oh okay. So this is something new for me because I did not know that only 0.17 to 20 inches of range is allowed in sizes. So we're actually going to leave this be and not resize it, and we'll just resize our artwork. So if you want to make something move, I think that's like one of the limitations on a web-based application. And now we'll see if any of this gets retained in Adobe Express. What I want to do is I'm trying to think how I want to do this in Adobe Express. Do I want to copy paste everything, or do I just want to like import an Illustrator file? I think I'm going to import an Illustrator file. So what I'm going to do is create a new Illustrator file and make it to the same size of um the poster design that we have. So that's 8.5 by 11. And then I want to have all of this pasted on top here. So we have this. I'm going to size it down to what we had for our size. Maybe something like this looks good. I want to move everything other than my backgrounds, and I select everything and bring it to like here, bring it here, and then I'm going to bring this as well. So I actually want to see how this is going to look and like import and express because I've never actually done that. So we'll see together how it works. Okay, we'll see how it works. Okay, I actually like this better. This is so much better than what we first had. Okay, and I think yeah. Awesome. Okay, and now I'm gonna save this on my computer. I want to save this. Maybe I want to save this here. Test. Yes. Okay, and then I'm gonna jump back into Adobe Express, and this time I'm gonna start from my content. So here I have this test file that I just created. I want to bring it here and see how that works. Now, I immediately see that the blend modes don't really work the same way. So we might have to change that within Adobe Express. I think that's one of the limitations when you're doing something like this, where Express really doesn't support all of the blend modes that Illustrator does right now. And that's why it's not bringing soft light in here, because Adobe Express right now has normal, multiply, and I think one more which I'm forgetting at the moment. But that's what it is, right? But I think while we're doing this, I want to go back to like our designs for today. We covered a lot actually in the last 50 minutes. We talked about blend modes. We talked about how you can make quotes for your posters. We ended up creating this one, which honestly I'm not a fan of. It's like this was a warm-up piece. Okay, this was a warm-up sketch. Then we worked with this one, which I think is like really good. um worked with like variations of how you can make text to vector. Then we worked with like how you can make your own paper textures in Illustrator, which are also vector. And then we worked with how you can make like textures, PNGs, and change blend modes of them and make something like this. Now we're actually using the same file and importing it into Adobe Express, which I think is super cool because now you can make them move, which I think personally is like really, really cool. While it is uploading, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have in chat, or if you've enjoyed this process, or if this like makes you think that you would make something similar as well. I think my personal favorite was the discovery of like making something like paper textures. So even if you're not like just for fun as like a morning warm-up exercise, you can make paper textures all you want. So maybe I want to do that right now while it's like doing something. Wrinkle paper effect, I want to see how that changes if I create wrinkle paper effect and not wrinkle paper, if that changes anything. It's still converting, so we still have some time while it's doing that. So I want to like push AI to its limit and see how that works. Okay. And now it says oh, okay, that is so interesting that it kind of like retained the blend mode of it, or actually not, it didn't. Okay, so this is like wrinkled paper effect, and I want to see other graph. Okay, I think now it's getting it. I think the effect kind of like really helped with like the kind of look you're going for. So I actually want to give it like a background color so we can actually see what the effect will look like if put on multiply layer. And then I want to change the opaque, like the blend mode again, to like multiply. And that, okay, that is amazing. That is actually mind blowing. I think this looks super cool. It kind of gives that like flyer pasted effect. And I think that's cool. I think you would like, if you wanted to make this by hand in Illustrator, that would take up a lot of your time. But just by doing this um text to vector with like how you wanted your effects to look like, I think that is super cool. I'm gonna check it out with like this one as well and see how that looks. Okay, and this kind of looks like it was pasted on concrete. This is like very fun. I think I would experiment with this a lot more just to see like these possibilities with like how your paper texture, because now you can generate them. You don't have to go looking for them because this is also using Adobe stock. It's easy to generate them within Illustrator with the magic of Firefly. So we did that. Now I'm in Express. Okay, we're pushing it. We only have 5 minutes. So I really want to go back in here and see what comes up. I do think oh, that is fascinating that there's only one layer, even though we had multiple layers. That is so fascinating. Okay, so because it wanted to, I know what happened here. Okay, because it wanted to retain the blend mode that we had on top, it kind of only gave us the output as the input in Adobe Express. So what I want to do now, just to experiment how that looks, I want to remove this blend mode off of it. Here, it could be the clipping mask, Kumukon. That you might be right with that. I think I want to remove um that completely. I just remove that from top, and I think that might be the issue. Now you see that everything comes up the same way, and the blend modes aren't really like making a difference to how it's taking the input in Adobe Express. I think that was something that was like causing an issue there. Let's open and see if it's in layers. Okay, here we go. Now everything is in layers. So that was it. That was the issue with like everything being on different layers. So it does say the blend mode is not supported because we imported that, right? Sorry, we support the blend you imported. Choose, we don't support it, right? It says we don't support it, but it kind of like is retaining the values, which is so interesting to see. Yeah, it could be the clipping mask as well. It's like I see here that this font is also not supported, so it's kind of not taking the glyphs here. I do want to go in and see if I copy paste this on top, will it retain that? Okay, no, it doesn't. It doesn't retain any other overlays, any other blend modes that we have. So I can change it to like any of these three: normal, multiply, or screen within Adobe Express. But since we don't have soft light in Adobe Express, it's not really possible at this time to do that. Um, I do want to go back here. That is so fascinating. What is this? Yeah. And then go back in here. I think I want to bring this like something like so. And now you can go in and add animation to any of this. Now, we don't have a lot of time. We only have about 1 minute left, but I can show you how you can like use fade or pop or slide. All of these will like motion posters are super cool. I always love looking at them. One thing to remember when you're creating something like this is having like consistency with the kind of animation presets you're using. So let's go ahead and play this and see how that looks. That does look like consistent. While I say consistent, you also have to make sure it's not boring at the same time. So I think this is like a good place for us to stop because we don't have a lot of time. The stream was so much fun. I'm working with you all. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Adobe Live. We completed a lot of fun stuff using blend modes, mainly type posters in Adobe Illustrator, explored some of the very fun features of text to vector graphics to create our old wrinkled paper effect. I think I'm going to be making a lot of my own textures in the coming future. And if you did too, tag us at Adobe Live on Instagram and tag me at ANIKAAGG. And I will see you on the other side. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.